And welcome to a special episode of the UFO show focusing solely on week one of the NFL season that is set to go in about 45 minutes. Now, we already had the Thursday night game, but Sunday is full of games. This week is a little bit different. Andy is off at a wedding, so I have my third line podcast partner, Chris Roy, with me. Chris, how are you doing today?
Well, not too bad. I'm getting excited for a big day of football, so it's been a long time coming.
Oh, I see you got the notes ready to go.
Oh, I got a couple. I happen to do a little bit of research, but yeah, I'm sure you're much more attuned to this process than me.
Yeah, so for anybody who hasn't watched our show before, we are brought to you by Bet99sportsbook.com. What you have to do is you head over to the area51sportsnetwork.com/betting, go over to the betting site, use our link, and then you can get back $600 off your initial deposit. So you get an extra $600 to play with if you put in $600 into the website. All of the bets that we use are from Bet99sportsbook.com, so make sure to check them out for all your betting. Okay, so let's jump in here because we got a whole slew of games. We got a lot to cover. If you have any questions, make sure to comment. We will try to answer all of your questions that come up. But to start off, why don't we stay West Coast? You know, the team that most of our viewers are probably paying most attention to, the Seattle Seahawks. So we have the Seahawks at minus 155 versus the Indianapolis Colts at plus 140. Chris, which way are you leaning on this?
I don't really see how Seattle loses this game. Just with some of the weapons they have. Carson Wentz, I mean, he's an okay quarterback, but he's kind of fallen off the map the last couple of years. And I believe, is T.Y. Hilton back yet? I know he had some back issues.
I believe he will be playing, but that's something to watch.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to Lockett, Metcalf, Chris Carson healthy, I don't see how Seattle's losing this game, but they've proven me wrong before.
So one interesting thing that is going to come out of this game is Carson Wentz. So you talked a little bit about Wentz, but he's one of the players that has come out outwardly and said that he is not getting vaccinated. And it has already turned the Indianapolis Colts fans against him. There's a lot of Indianapolis Colts fans that are very upset that they went and got Carson Wentz to start with instead of another quarterback that hasn't been injured for his entire career, because they have flashbacks of, Andrew Luck, who retired mid-game in a preseason game a couple of years ago. And now you have this guy who refuses to get vaccinated, who, if he gets sick, your offense is screwed, really. So this is kind of a make it game for Carson Wentz. He's got to show up, because otherwise we could hear boos in week one of the NFL out of the Indianapolis faithful.
Yeah, that's going to be, you're already coming to a brand new market and you're trying to, appeal to them and get them on your side. And obviously, he's got his beliefs and, say what you want about that. I'm not going to get too political, but I think that he's set himself up for failure here because, like you said, he doesn't have the team's faithful behind him. And the situation for him, I don't see a great fit. But who knows? He definitely looked great in Philly a couple of years ago, but I think this is more of a run team. This is Jonathan Taylor's team right now. And, it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of storylines that are going to play out over the next 2 weeks. We're really going to get to see team identities forming. So,
and some big news breaking by Greg Bell, that LJ Collier from the Seahawks, so the 2019 first-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts, who was supposed to bring a big addition to the Seahawks defense, is out today. But you know what? The Seahawks defense is good. They got Bobby Wagner. They got a decent defensive line. You have Jamal Adams, who's basically an all-around defender. He can play safety, linebacker, or D-line if you really need him to. So I think you're right that the Seahawks come out on top here.
Yeah, I obviously the money line, or not the money line, the money line. It's not worth it for me just because of the odds. It's one of those ones where it's like betting on the 49ers today. Just doesn't really get you anything. So
let's jump over to one of the highly contested or highly anticipated matchups: the Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got Buffalo at minus 260, Steelers at plus 225. So, Chris, where are you leaning today?
Obviously, another team that I stayed away from these guys, the Bills, that is, when it came to my actual fantasy pools, just because of the vaccination situation for them as well. And the league clamped down pretty hard. I think they said if there was outbreaks that it could just be a straight up forfeiture of game. So from a fantasy point of view, I didn't really want to take too many of them. But for this individual game, it's going to be tight. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense is pretty solid, but with what we saw from the Bills last year, they should have this one in the bag. And Diggs is just a rock star. Allen found a new level to his game last year. And for me, one of the ones that stood out, I would pick the Bills to win for sure. And when I was looking at Bet99 about 10 minutes ago, I don't know if the odds have changed, but one that stuck out for me was Josh Allen over 2.5 passing touchdowns was a plus 127. I think it's entirely feasible that Josh Allen could have 3 passing touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, Josh Allen has really emerged as one of the top quarterbacks in the league. That Buffalo Bills defense is scary. But this is what I'll throw out to you. This is Ben Roethlisberger's last year. Like, I don't think there's much debate on that. Like, he's not Tom Brady here. He's not going until 45. Like, his body is destroyed. This looks like his last year. So I know a lot of the NFL experts that you hear on the radio and everything are saying, watch out for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. They got the best defender, one of the best defenders in the league in TJ Watt. They got a strong running back, a strong receiving core. They got our, Abbotsford's own Chase Claypool in there. Yep. Juju Smith-Schuster has to kind of calm down a little bit and start really focus on football, it feels like, instead of walking on crates and potentially ending his career. Yep. But I think that even though the Bills are going to win this game, I feel like Pittsburgh's going to make it a close one. And this minus 6.5 line for the Bills, I think that Pittsburgh's going to match it and that it's going to be like a 3-point game, like a last-minute field goal or something.
Yeah, that's entirely possible for sure. And like you said before, Najee Harris is a bit of a question mark, but I really like what I see in his game, and having that option for Roethlisberger when he's maybe not putting the pieces together and he can just dump it off a few times and kind of regroup, I think is going to be huge for him. Last year, they had a lot of trouble at the running back position. They lost. Connor got injured. And who else was there? Oh, they had Benny Snell. There was a few RBs, and they just kind of went through a cycle of them. Having a guy with this kind of pedigree, I think, is going to help Roethlisberger for sure. He should be primed for a good year. But, the way that this Bills team is designed, it's not a running team. Like, I don't know, Singletary's their main guy. They also got Zach Moss. But from what I saw last year, if there's any run plays, they're just letting Allen take it. It's kind of like a Baltimore Ravens situation. So, I guess that's why the line says it's a plus 127 for over 2.5 passing touchdowns. They're probably assuming that Allen's going to run a couple in himself. Yeah, I don't know. If I was Allen, I'd be a little leery because everyone knows that's his game. And if you're on the 5-yard line, you're going to get hammered if you're trying to run one in. I just do a quick dump over to a tight end or something and save your body. But I'll probably put a couple bucks down on Josh Allen, the over 2.5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh really hasn't had a strong running back, like stable running back situation since Le'Veon Bell. And James Conner, didn't even realize this. He's in Arizona now. That was one of those that just kind of flew under the radar, it seems like.
Yeah. I think it's going to be him and Chase Edmonds. So they got sort of a 1A, 1B situation going on there.
So let's jump to what I think will be the upset of the first set of games. The Cincinnati Bengals are at plus 130. Minnesota Vikings are at minus 145. I'm taking the Bengals here. Like, I don't see how Minnesota is the favorite.
I think it's just because of the Bengals D. I don't think their D is necessarily the best, and Burrow's going to be a bit of a question mark. Obviously, he's back, but that was a pretty devastating injury. So it's going to be, and also you're looking in training camp, and you've seen Jamar Chase not have a lot of success. He's dropping some balls, and obviously he'll figure that out. He's too good of a player to not get that figured out. But with the system and working with Burrow and Burrow's confidence coming back after that injury, it might take him a week or two to really gel. So that's probably where those odds are coming from.
Well, you know what I'll throw out is that on the Minnesota side, remember Kirk Cousins, another player that we're talking about who's not vaccinated, he was having trouble during training camp because he couldn't participate in all of the activities with his other teammates. So there's been a lot of turmoil in the Minnesota Vikings organization. A coach left because he refused to get vaccinated. This is a situation in Minnesota that could turn ugly very quickly. You got the head coach and the quarterback going against each other on this. You have the head coach going on live TV in Minnesota saying get vaccinated, and you have the quarterback coming out saying no, don't. I'm not getting it. So we like to think that these people kind of shut everything off and just become mindless robots once the game starts. But there are these extenuating circumstances that do come to play.
Oh, 100%. And you hit the nail on the head there too. I mean, you're looking at Kirk Cousins, and if there's a beef between the head coach and a player like that, I would like to think that he's probably got a bit of a short leash. And I mean, he had a pretty solid year last year. He's been a great player through most of his career, but he's starting to get long in the tooth. And if you've already got that beef with the head coach, if they don't have a strong start to the season, and their expectations are pretty high, they've obviously got Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson. So you're talking one of the best, if not the best running back in, Derrick Henry, I would say Dalvin Cook's top 3 running back in the league. Justin Jefferson, a premier wide receiver. So, and they've got a pretty solid defense from what I remember. So you're talking a real solid team that's got expectations. So if they falter for the first couple weeks, I can see a situation playing out where if San Fran has some hiccups and Minnesota has some hiccups, maybe Minnesota pulls the trigger and says, you know what, let's bring in Jimmy G because San Fran says, let's give the ball to Trey Lance. I could see a quarterback change in Minnesota if all the chips fall.
Well, this is who I'll throw out. This is their backup quarterback, Sean Mannion. He's played in 7 years in the NFL, and he has played a total of 13 games. He's got 384 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's their backup. Yeah. And then their third stringer is a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, what's his name?
Here, let me just grab it up here. He played for Texas. Yeah, he played for Texas A&M. The backup is Kellen Mond.
Oh yeah, I've heard of. Only reason I've heard of him is because of Madden. Yeah, see, that's the thing. And Mannion being their backup, I'm pretty sure Mannion was just in Seattle a few weeks ago, and he was their third stringer. So I don't think you've got much behind Cousins. So there are a couple teams in the league that have got quarterback situations where they it's less than desirable. So there may be a few body switching, but as of right now, yeah, I think there's some expectations on the Vikings, but you never know. If Cincinnati starts to put it all together faster than we expect, they could definitely be a solid team, but my expectation is the Vikings should win this game.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's move on to the late game. Oh, so there are some, we've already seen some movements on here. For example, the Seahawks odds just went up to -150. Jacksonville just went up to -175. So we're already seeing some line changes. So make sure to get those bets in quickly if you can. So from the early games, is there any other games that you want to touch on before we move on to the 125 games?
I actually don't have the schedule in front of me as to which ones.
So which
other early ones are there?
We got Panthers versus Jets.
Eh.
We got
I did have I got written down here again. I'm not 100% sure if the odds have changed, but I do have Zach Wilson over 1.5 passing touchdowns is a plus 129. So they're saying that Zach Wilson's not going to have 2 passing touchdowns. And Carolina's got an okay defense, but I mean, this Zach Wilson guy, he obviously high pedigree. He's got a lot of chemistry with some of his receivers already. Elijah Moore is one. Corey Davis, they've looked really good in training camp. So I'd bet for a plus 129, I'd bet Zach Wilson's going to get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's a pretty good bet. The rest are like Detroit, San Francisco, which you already talked about.
Obvious.
Houston, Jacksonville. You take Jacksonville because Houston, we don't know really what's going on. It looks
I like the spread for that Jags game. As of right now, they had it at a 3.5.
Yeah,
I really think the Jags can win by a touchdown.
Yeah, so that one is question. That one's going to be iffy. I think it's Teddy Bridgewater is he the quarter? No, Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback.
Tyrod Taylor
in Texas, in Houston now. So
yeah,
and that line is now changing again. Tennessee at Arizona. That one, I'm taking the Titans. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Arizona to figure it out. Yep. Tennessee's the favorite there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hard not to be when they bring in Julio.
Yep. And then, Arizona, they brought in a ton this offseason as well.
They did.
J.J. Watt.
Yep.
Washington, L.A. Now, this one I actually had as a little bit of a confusing one. I had the Chargers winning, but the Chargers are at plus 110.
Yeah.
So Washington's at minus 125. And I'm thinking they're taking Ryan Fitzpatrick over Justin Herbert.
I think it's the Washington defense is one of the best in the league, and they're expecting them to give Herbert a few fits. And, but see, the thing is, my logic, I've got Justin Herbert in 2, if not 3 of my football pools. I just love what this kid can do. And, if he gets pressured, you get guys like Chase Young coming in and pressuring you. He's got options. He's got Eckler right there to just dump the ball off to. They brought in Jordan Cook at tight end. And, he's a pretty solid veteran tight end. And and obviously Keenan Allen, obviously he's a little bit more of a deeper threat, but, he's got options. Herbert's got a good mental game, and I really think that even though Washington has one of the best defenses in the league, I could see the Chargers pulling this one out.
Yep, I think the Chargers are as well. I think by the end of the year, Justin Herbert's going to get some MVP consideration.
Yep.
And then last of the early games, Philadelphia, Atlanta. This is another game. I don't have faith in the Falcons, but they're at minus 175, and Eagles are at plus 155. You know what? I'm all on the Jalen Hurts train here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one thing that Atlanta has going for him is Matt Ryan just chucks the ball. I mean, he throws the ball 45, 50 times a game. Obviously, losing Julio hurts. They still have Calvin Ridley. They still have Russell Gage. And the big question mark for me is obviously bringing in Kyle Pitts. The guy is a beast. And, I really do think he could have an insane season at tight end. But the problem with Atlanta has and always, not always will be, but has been for the last few years is their defense. If Atlanta's going to win games, they're winning them, 42-35 because their defense is going to allow 4 or 5 touchdowns. So, yeah, I really like you said, I like Hurts though. He's got good mobility. They don't have a ton of targets for him. I mean, obviously bringing in Devonta Smith was huge. I really like this running back they got. I think it's Kenneth Gainwell. He had a great preseason and having an easy dump off our RB target. Obviously, they got Miles Sanders and Boston Scott, but they've been lining Gainwell up as like a slot receiver in some formations. So,
well, they got a Jalen Reagor. I think that's
Jalen Reagor. Yeah.
You got JJ Akriga-Whiteside, who's pretty good. You got Greg Ward, who's okay. But you still got one of the best tight end sets in the league with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and then you add in Jack Stoll, who had a pretty good year in Nebraska. So,
yeah, Yeah, and that's like you said, if Hertz is obviously very mobile, if he starts running and gets into trouble, having those two solid tight ends, and like I said, Gainwell possibly lining up as like a slot receiver, quick dump off target. If he's not going for the vertical stretch passes, they could just pick people off with 5, 8, 9 yard passes, and they could have a surprisingly capable season. I don't see him as a playoff team, but you never know.
Now, one thing that I watched the Amazon Philadelphia Eagles. What's it called? All or Nothing. I started rewatching that. It's from 2019, but that's a pretty good series. I'm not a huge Eagles fan, but I love the All or Nothing. So I know they're coming out with the Leafs one, which we won't watch in protest. But yeah, if you have time, go rewatch some of the football ones. They're pretty incredible. They had the one where the year that the Rams moved. So some good content over on Amazon Prime. And if they want to sponsor us, sponsor us on Amazon Prime, Give us some free memberships.
Yeah, we'd be okay with that.
Okay, so we'll move over to the evening or the midday games. KC at Cleveland. KC minus 210, Cleveland at plus 185. I know there's a lot of Browns fans out there, but I think KC is the choice here.
Yeah, I can't bet. You can't ever bet against KC. I mean, the only time they seem to have any sort of competition, I mean, if they're playing the Bucks, then obviously, I mean, you'll watch what happened in the Super Bowl. But Cleveland's a weird team. Like, they have all the pieces. They've got a solid defense. They brought in Jadeveon Clowney this year to go with Myles Garrett, and I'm spacing on their other edge rusher. But anyways, so they've got a high pressure D. They've got some targets. They got Odell Beckham. I mean, if he can stay healthy, one of the best in the game. Jarvis Landry is pretty solid in his own right. They got two of the better running backs in the league, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and a quarterback that can ball when he wants to. Like, when he puts it all together, he's real solid quarterback. But for some reason, they just can't seem to really put all the pieces together. I don't know if it's a offensive coordinator situation. They're just not calling the right plays or what. But yeah, it's been a tough run for them, and I think they're going to start the season off probably 0-1 again.
Now, before we came on, I was watching NFL Countdown, and they had this clip of Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes kind of rebonding and talking about the Chiefs. So that was pretty nice. But I just think that Patrick Mahomes, how can you bet against him? He's like Brady. You can't really bet against Patrick Mahomes. No. He's throwing balls that he's not even looking at the receiver. He's escaping pockets like Eli Manning in the Super Bowl versus New England. Like, yeah, it's just one of those where good luck if you want to bet against him.
Yeah, pretty much. He's they say the cliche with Brady, never bet against Brady. Well, he's the new. I'm not calling him the new Brady, but he's the new version of that statement. You don't bet against Mahomes.
Okay, New England, Miami. New England minus 180, Dolphins plus 160. I guess they're liking Mac Jones. I don't know. New England, they did a lot this offseason. I just think that rookie quarterback, it's just not going to end well.
Yeah, Mac Jones has got, some people have called him, another Brady prototype. The guy who, he comes into camp. Obviously, Brady, when he first joined the Pats, he kind of looked a little out of shape, had like a dad bod going on, wasn't super mobile, but he had the brain for the game. And a lot of people have said the same thing with Mac Jones. And he's had some good success in preseason. And obviously, he took over Cam Newton's job and sent him packing. So they got something there. When it comes to Bill Belichick, I don't ever doubt that he can find talent. And I think he had a big hand in them taking Mac Jones. My problem is they brought in a lot of weapons too. I mean, they got Hunter Henry at tight end, Jonnu Smith at tight end. So two solid tight end options there. Downfield, I mean, they got Nelson Aguilar, which he's had some success with him. They have Jacoby Myers, solid.
Speaking of Aguilar, during that All or Nothing documentary, they have that shot of when the guy's catching or there's some guy who is helping some families out of a fire, and he's catching children and who are falling out of a jumping out of the building, and he's saying, "We're catching them," unlike Aguilar. So yeah. So as you can tell, Aguilar has had some drops in his past.
Just a couple, and well, in his defense, the Philly fans are terrible. They're brutal. So
especially the Flyers fans,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I really do think though that I think this Dolphins team is building something special, and I don't have, a ton of faith in Tua. I'm hoping he proves me wrong, but they've got a ton of targets, ton of weapons, some pass catching running backs. Myles Gaskin is always a good dump off option. Once Will Fuller gets back, I mean, he's a burner. He's your downfield threat, but Jalen Waddle was one of my favorites coming out of the draft, and they picked him up. And I've always been curious about how a team prepares for a left-handed quarterback. I mean, obviously you got to flip some of your plays around if you're trying to blitz because you want to hit them from the backside. And just for receivers, not receivers, for cornerbacks and stuff, when the ball's coming out on different angles, I've always wondered if that's something, because there's not very many left-handed quarterbacks. And I've always just had this weird thing where I figured that a defensive coordinator probably has to prepare differently for that, but could just be my weird mindset.
Okay, so we're at the 15-minute countdown here. Approximately 15 minutes until opening kickoff for the first game. So let's rattle through these last 3 games here.
Okay.
Or 4 games, I guess. New York Giants, Denver Broncos. They got the Broncos winning. Why? Take the Giants, in my opinion, at plus 125. Daniel Jones, he's going to have a good year.
Yeah, and obviously they got Saquon back. Bridgewater is their new starting quarterback. Cortland Sutton's back. I don't know. This one's kind of a wash for me. I think it could go either way. But yeah, I would say probably not wrong. The Giants could pull it out for sure.
Okay. Big game, New Orleans, Green Bay, Andy's Packers, minus 190, and then the New Orleans Saints at plus 170.
Yeah, I really think that Green Bay, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is on a mission right now. He's playing like a man possessed. They got one of the, if not the best wide receiver in the game, one of the best running backs in the game. It's, they're like a more improved version of the Vikings. Like I said, you got Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Devontae Smith, Justin Jefferson. The only difference being you have Aaron Rodgers, in the pocket as opposed to Kirk Cousins. And Green Bay's defense is real solid. So they're just like, an upgraded version of the Vikings. And the Rodgers is on a mission. The only thing that I think the Saints have going for him here, I like Marquez Callaway coming out of camp. He's their only target really right now with, I'm gapping on his name, Michael Thomas. Had a brain fart there. Michael Thomas injured until week 6, probably. Apparently, Jameis Winston and Marcus Callaway have been vibing in training camp. Callaway looks like a stud. They have him at a plus 118 for an over 4.5 receptions. Callaway should probably get 5 targets because they've got really no one else to pass to besides Kamara, obviously. And yeah, I like Callaway as a over 4.5 receptions for a plus 118. But when it comes to the money line, I'm taking the Packers all day long.
Okay. LA Rams, Chicago Bears. LA Rams minus 400. Chicago Bears at plus 330. Do we really need to discuss this game?
No, not until Justin Fields is behind center for the Bears. They have no chance.
Exactly. That's what I agree. No disrespect to Andy Dalton, but why? just don't need to be. He doesn't need to be there. No. Okay, and then let's end off with Malcolm and I believe your Las Vegas Raiders, right?
Yeah, that's
versus
right.
the Baltimore Ravens. Now, how long until Marcus Mariota jumps under center for the Las Vegas Raiders in this game?
I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. I'm just going to move on. I hate you. No, I really think that this game got more interesting. Obviously, the Ravens have lost all their running backs. Bringing in some veterans. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray. they're going to take some time to get used to the playbook. And they got, I don't remember the rookie that they have that's going to step in as probably the starter. But I really think that when it comes to the run game, they rely on Lamar regardless. And I think they wanted to have guys like Justice Hill, Gus, J.K. Dobbins to take the running game away from Lamar, because same thing with Josh Allen. The more you run as a quarterback, the more chance you have of getting hurt. And if they lose Lamar, their season's completely done. So I think this game's going to be closer than most people imagine. I know the Ravens are still favorites because Lamar is Lamar, but the Raiders have upgraded a lot of their defense this summer, and they've got weapons. Hunter Renfrow looked great in preseason. He was burning Jalen Ramsey on a few route runs when they were doing an intra-squad game, or not intra-squad, when they were doing it wasn't even like a preseason game, but anyways, won't dwell on that. But Renfro's always been solid. I think Ruggs is in for a resurgence. He kind of disappeared a bit last year, but he's got the pedigree. He'll put it all together. And then you got Darren Waller, who's probably the second best tight end in the league after Kelsey. And you got a pretty solid running back with Josh Jacobs. So when you get a quarterback that likes to just chuck the ball like Derek Carr does, if Waller can get open, Ruggs can get open, Renfrew can get open, you've got wide receiver targets. And during the run game, you've got probably a top 10 running back in the league in Josh Jacobs. So I'd put my money on the Ravens to win still, just because Lamar Jackson is a beast. But I think the Raiders will make a game of it and could potentially surprise and pull out a win.
Okay, so last question before we wrap up this show and let everybody get their snacks and seating situation ready. How many touchdowns for Carr? How many touchdowns for Lamar Jackson?
I'll say Jackson. Lamar's got no wide receiver targets. Like, he's got Marquise Brown, who
he's got what is it? Their tight end Mark Andrews, right?
Mark Andrews. Yeah, I forgot about Mark Andrews. He's solid. He's probably a top 6 or 7 tight end in the league, maybe even top 5. I forgot about him. I would say Lamar's going to get 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. And well, you know what? I'll make it 2 rushing touchdowns because he's pretty damn good. I'll go 2 and 2. And for Derek Carr, he's not as much of a rusher. I'm going to say 3 passing touchdowns for Derek Carr.
So 3 passing touchdowns for Derek Carr, 2 passing touchdowns for Lamar Jackson.
And 2 rushing.
So let's focus on the passing here. So if you put down Chris's bet here, $10 on Lamar Jackson to have at least 2 passing touchdowns and Derek Carr to have at least 3 passing touchdowns, $10 turns into $34.80. So pretty good odds on that for sure.
Yeah, and looking at mine, I'm not sure if the numbers have changed at all, but for the prop bets that I talked about today, Marquez Callaway over 4.5 receptions, Josh Allen over 2.5 passing touchdowns, and Zach Wilson over 1.5 passing touchdowns. A $5 bet on that parlay gets you $57.15.
Perfect. Trying to make you guys money. It's September, Canuck tickets are going to be up for renewal soon. So if you're on the mainland, a way to hopefully win some money to go towards feeding Aquilini's pockets.
Yeah. Or if you live on the island like myself, that money can go towards getting on a ferry.
Yes, exactly. So that you can getting on a ferry so you can do come over and do bowling and laser tag.
That's right.
Okay. So thank you to Chris for joining us this week on the UFO show. Once again, we did do it a little bit different today. Hopefully some of these bets land for you and you can walk away with some nice money on the first week of the NFL regular season. If you do have questions for next week, let us know. We'll be back in our regular spot, hopefully on Thursday at 4 p.m. But for Chris, I'm Adam, and thank you once again for joining the UFO show on the Area 51 Sports Network.